Hey, good afternoon there. Good afternoon, Ryan, Brett. Good to see you all. Hope everybody's doing okay. Can see my screen and hear my voice all right. Busy day, folks. Got Fed meeting later, Bank of Canada meeting. We've had Australian inflation data, US GDP, a lot going on. Announcement from Trump on India tariffs. I'll give you a few pointers for the FOMC decision as well, and a couple of tips for those of you who are around and trading it. Also going to be looking at dollar CAD, could be an opportunity there with the monetary policy report meeting coming up at 3. Going to give folks 30 seconds or so to sign on in. Brett, Adair, Ryan, and then we'll crack on. Swan, good to see you. Yeah, Swan, good to see you. All right, folks, let's get stuck into the session. So let's just go through the data. So first of all, we had RBA inflation data out overnight. Now we were looking for a hot reading to potentially give us an upside bias in the Aussie against the New Zealand dollar. We looked at that bearish, that sort of flag pattern, didn't get it. So inflation was in line with expectations, if anything, a little bit lower. That just weakened the Australian dollar out of the meeting. We saw a little bit of Australian dollar weakness. Just take a look at the currencies to see the Aussie dollar just a little bit weaker on the session today. The next major data that we had was the ADP jobs data out of the US. Strong, above expectations, and the prior was revised from negative 33 to negative 23,000. So the ADP jobs data, it's not very good at predicting what the NFP is, but it is very good at setting the mood for what the NFP is. And you can see here, the mood is robust. The US labour market continues to show strength, and just before the session started, we've had the GDP growth rate, the flash advance reading for the second quarter, 3%. That was above expectations of 2.4 and well above the prior of 0.0, 0.5. That's resulted in some dollar strength, right? You can see the euro dollar pair just falling lower. And you can see the euro dollar is in a clear sort of correctional area. So looking for pullbacks, any opportunities to sell the euro US dollar makes sense. You can see here, we just sort of had these, break, selling sharply. So any retracements as it currently stands, looking for euro dollar selling. Now, the Fed could push back against some of the September pricing. Now, markets are saying the Fed's going to be on hold later. And you can see short-term interest rate markets, 100% chart to a hold. Now, if they push back against a September potential cut, right, then you can see even more dollar strength come out of the meeting. So just be aware of that. So that Fed meeting is at 7 o'clock UK time. And just to be aware, when you have the Fed's, the news conference comes at 7:30. So the initial reaction can often be contradicted or faded on the news conference. So just to be aware of that, okay? 7 o'clock, 7:30, see it as two events. Then, before we got that data, we got the Canadian monetary policy report coming at 2:45. Now, markets are sort of saying there's an anticipation. They're not meant to cut rates, but they could have a bit of a dovish tilt. So look for a dovish tilt to potentially lift the dollar CAD into the Fed meeting. So what we're looking for is, if you look at this on the weekly chart, do you see a price is trying to move out of this 3,800 region? So looking for potential breakout here of this 3,800, breakout, maybe a target up to that 3,900. So look for that. This is not a dot plot meeting. The summary of economic projections, we had it in June. So there's no dot plot this time, okay? Expect the Fed to maintain their independence. If anything, a hawkish tilt could be expected as they push back against the September interest rate cut. Remember, Waller and Bowman both said that they'll be happy to cut rates in July, but they're in the minority. So with the latest data, look at that second quarter GDP. This is not a struggling US economy. Trump's just been out posting. He's just said 3%, way better than expected. Too late, must now lower the rate, no inflation, let people buy and refinance their homes. So there's no pressure on the Fed to cut interest rates. So all of that should keep supporting the dollar. Now, if there's a surprise, right, and the Fed do start moving towards interest rate cuts, then look for sudden dollar weakness and then look for euro dollar selling. Silver longs, pleased that I closed those out near those highs. You can see silver continues to drop lower. The stronger dollar is just weighing on commodities, right? Strong dollar, that makes commodities more expensive because they're often priced in dollars. Gold pressured, copper, silver, WTI and Brent crude, they're being supported by this frustration that Trump has with Putin. He calls them insincere, that the top, essentially, I don't know exactly the words he used, but essentially he doesn't think that President Putin is negotiating in good faith. That so much is true. He said that by saying, the time for talking is over. He gave Russia a deadline, 10 to 12 days to stop the invasion in Ukraine. Trump is clearly losing patience. And if you look at the US dollar ruble, the dollar CAD upside up to that 3,900 looks good on a dovish Bank of Canada. And then look at the dollar ruble. Rejection of this 100%, 100 exponential moving average, bullish engulfing bar, right? Now, this looks like it wants to sharply move higher. If you look at the seasonal dynamic of the dollar ruble, 72% winning trade percentage for dollar strength against the Russian ruble around this period from 29th of July, 30th July to the 7th of September. So August tends to be very weak for the Russian ruble. Reading a Bloomberg article on this, Russia's central bank has recently cut interest rates from elevated level. Some of the banks are preparing for potential bailouts. There's a general weakening in the economy, and Trump's losing his temper patience rather, should I say, with Putin, and that could easily result in some more dollar ruble upside. So one to look for, not a bad area that you can see. Each stops can easily be placed underneath this hammer, nice hammer reversal, right? Price pushing higher off that very strong hammer bar, and you can see we've had a breakdown, right, of that near trend line. So this is major support now around that 79 region. So that's what to look for in the currencies. Yeah, no dot plot from the Fed. I'm just going to check that. I'm sure it was the last meeting was in June. Yeah, so we had the projections in June. That's it. Yeah, so the next one will be in the meeting after this one. Dollar strength continuing, not surprised on that really strong GDP. So anything to do with dollar strength right now is popular. Dollar CAD looks very attractive if we see a more dovish more dovish Bank of Canada. Hey Sam, good to see you. All right, so that's what to look for. Let's just have a quick run through the calendar. Just want to check I haven't missed anything. No, that's it. Got oil inventory data. I'll just have a look what the private inventory was overnight. I'm just going to check the so the private inventory data was a build of 1.5 million. So if we saw a draw, that could support oil even further. So it's a build 1.5 million for the weekly crude stocks. So you expected a draw of 1.2, but with the private data showing a build of 1.5 million, that's the new expectations. All right, folks. Now let's go and have a look at the market itself. So looking at the E-mini, first thing to notice, inventory data, positive. We have this point of control from yesterday. Hey Nadja, good morning, good to see you. Point of control from yesterday, providing support, and we're in this developing value area low here. So in other words, we are in major support. If we can break down underneath this level, there's no reason why we can't continuing lower. But for now, point of control, developing value area low is a crucial support area. Delta is positive from the overnight session. We can see on the hourly chart that buyers really are in here at that 6407 region. So going to the 15, right, what we're looking for here is if we can see any sort of sellers getting trapped. So if those sellers get trapped there into the open, it wouldn't be surprised to see a little flush down to that 6405. I think we need to see these sellers getting dropped there, but notice that this is yesterday's value area low here. And we've got another value area high around that same region. So one thing to notice is that we're in major support, right? In this whole big support zone, and we're opening within yesterday's balance. So market is in balance, okay? We've been happy to find fair value between this range of 6417, 6400. So until we see otherwise, right, it's play the range, okay? For me, really what I want to see is maybe if I see sellers, buyers, those buyers, I could look for a move up and a move lower, a quick move. Really what I want to see is a break up above this level and then we're moving up, or down below this level and then we're going to carry on lower. So at the moment, we're just opening flat within this range. If you look at the value area and the time price opportunity from the end of New York close yesterday, you can see we're opening and we're staying at that value area low. So we're in that big support area, and that's what stands out to me. We're in this heavy support area that's around that region. Break up above, great. Then we can start to look at that to top of that value area high in this point of control. US economy doing well, 3% GDP for the second quarter. Great.
And those are fitting with recent reports.
The only other thing to point out is the tariffs that are going on India. Trump said that India is going to be paying a tariff of 25% plus a penalty from August the 1st. Said, yes, India is our friend, but basically he's criticizing India for buying military equipment from Russia, buying Russia's largest buyer of energy, right, along with China, at a time when everyone wants Russia to stop the killing in Ukraine, right? So that's Trump's putting on India for that. And he says, therefore, India will pay a tariff of 25% plus a penalty for the above starting on August the 1st. Right, so that's 25% tariff on India. Saw a little bit of downside on that headline, but price is just finding support for now. So we've got the open coming up in 15 minutes. We've got some buyers stepping in here, and you can see that price is moving higher, even as delta's moving lower. So there's a bit of absorption going on. So that divergence going on there. So even though price is moving up for the open, price is moving higher, delta's moving lower. And what that's showing you is that although there's buyers on limit, there's more sellers at market at these levels. And that was that Trump headline there at 109 when the tariff deal came in. So that's what's to look out for. Otherwise, we're in this big support area and this choppy above. Then we can start to look up to that 6430 region. Otherwise, but down below, we can start to look for more downside. Just a little feature to remember with the Tradeovate, there is this nice feature where you can put a timer on the bar until how long you've got till the next bar appears, which can be very helpful if you're looking for a 15-minute close. And all you do to use it, you just go to settings, bar countdown settings, and then you can enable it. You can also have an audio alert if you want. Right, so I put the alert audio on. That's a good little feature just to remind you when the bar's coming to a close. The only other thing to mention, of course, is earnings. Big names earnings, Meta and Microsoft coming up after the close. An interesting Meta just came out with a headline.
Just want to be aware of, the Trump administration has released a crypto report, but omits details on the Bitcoin strategic reserve.
Meta saying developing superintelligence is now in sight. Now that superintelligence category is seen as a game changer for artificial intelligence. Once you hit that superintelligence bar, that's seen as very transformative. So Meta saying that developing superintelligence, and notice that their earnings is coming out later after the close. Be very interesting. So do keep an eye on Meta. Apple's also got their earnings after the close, and technically they're in a very nice place as well. Those buyers are trapped there. So buyers has now switched to a potential downside. Delta is positive, but buyers trapped. So it's a very mixed outlook now. I'll just have a look at this to see buyers trapped by sellers here. Now what I'll look for is, do we see a sudden flush lower on this? I'm just going to see, sometimes the sort of thing you can see. We see the delta starting to really build. On balance volumes moving lower. Right. Got buyers, got trapped there. Let's see. So I'm looking for to see if these buyers get trapped and then maybe some speed to the downside. That's what I'm looking for. Okay, here we go. How many contracts is this? That's 74. That's now 150. So close under there. I'm going to sell. I'm going to sell if this closes underneath this area. Yeah, selling.
And more from Bessent says he's not expecting a rate cut today from the Fed.
Okay. Okay, just taking profit against the VWAP. Just simple, straightforward. Now, I've got to be careful because I'm just going to make sure my orders are closed now. It's a tricky one because you might easily find buyers just come back in at this area, right? Because you've got buyers trapping sellers, right? So this is, it's just based on basically a range base, basically from the standard deviation down to the VWAP. Nothing fancy, but it was there. Did see it. 5-minute buyers, 5-minute sellers trapping the buyers, and then could just see here. The moment those buyers got trapped, that was the entry, and we just moved down there. Pretty unspectacular day, guys, but that's it. Sometimes that's just the way it goes. We'll be looking on to the Fed later. For now, look, if you get back underneath these buyers, then you can look to the same thing again to see if you can move lower. All right. Hope that made sense, folks. At least you could see